Yes.
Public bar was just full of men farting and smoking and swearing,
Yes.
which is what pubs are meant to be for, to be honest.
Exactly,
You know, and that's why you go
It's
to the
not
pub.
dissimilar to a talk studio.
My father used to wake me up in the morning with a cold flannel and rub it on my face and then laugh about it. And then it sort of shifts to the left and I fell on this woman because I was standing over her and I just literally fell into her lap. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to her. I thought it was quite funny.
Yes. OK, we are here, we are grumpy, and we are ready. And so is Mike and Kev. Please, Mike, get grumpy.
You run businesses which involve restaurants,
Yes.
which involve children going into them.
Yes.
I had the misfortune of sitting in a restaurant where there were some French people, and there seemed to be about 10 of them, 4 of whom were children, who just kept running around the restaurant, screaming, yelping.
Hold on, so just to be clear, it's children in restaurants
Yeah.
is your nomination.
It is.
You don't want them there.
I don't know what's wrong with parents when they cannot control their own children, because surely they must think at some point
But do you
that
think
something
it's...
bad could happen to them.
Do you think it is that thing where it's similar to delivery drivers who no longer hear the sound of their tailgate slamming down because it's gone off their radar,
Yeah.
and it makes you jump out your skin when you're walking past a lorry? Is it the same with people who have lots of children, that they cease to hear the noise that
I
they
don't
make?
think it is. I think it's that these parents, these are modern parents, and they don't know the meaning of the word no.
No.
They don't ever discipline their
Which
kids.
is the kindest word you can
or
ever
even
say to your
not.
child.
It's this kind of modern parenting idea that you don't discipline your kids, you let them develop naturally.
Yeah. Aren't they really interesting?
But as Mike says, it turns into a nightmare for everybody else. I understand pubs, welcome kids these days because they need the business. And
Well,
in
they
that
put a ball
respect,
pit in.
I'm going to go along with it.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, do I pine for the nostalgic days when children weren't allowed into booze.
Exactly right.
No, you weren't allowed in at all, were you?
Well, children...
Like when I was a kid,
You used to stand
outside with a
outside.
bag of
Yeah,
crisps
outside
and a
the
Coke.
Coke and a
Or
packet
you
of
could
crisps
have-
outside.
Or you would have the lounge bar, which
Yes.
was where women and children went with their husbands if their husbands weren't brave enough to go into the public bar on their own. But the public bar was horrible.
Yes.
Public bar was just full of men farting and smoking and swearing,
Yes.
which is what pubs are meant to be for, to be honest.
Exactly,
And that's why you go
It's
to the
not
pub.
dissimilar to a talk studio.
Not at all.
yeah.
The point is you go out sometimes to get away from your children or to
Yes.
get away from your family.
Certainly get
You
away.
know,
I mean, but you see that there is that thing of other people's children. Other people's children are just generally annoying.
Yeah.
They have to be exceptional children for you to like them.
Yes. Well,
Other
I'm in
people's
favour of polite children, who will speak to an adult with some respect, not who will say... I mean, at one point, I was in this restaurant and this French kid, was literally standing there next to my table, literally at my right shoulder.
Do you not elbow...
Right? I did think about that. I did think
you
about
know.
it.
Friendly neighbours, Kev?
See, I've
you
got
have some?
Sorry, I've got a sheet here that says nothing next to my thing.
Well, look, just look
there you
at
go,
his
just
one.
so
then.
as you know. Friendly neighbours, yeah. The great thing I love about London, you get northerners and people around the country say, what I don't like about London is nobody knows each other. They're just so unfriendly and all that. And I always say...
Like he's ever been to the north.
I went once. I'm not going again, I'll tell you that. But seriously, I think they're entirely wrong. What I love about London is you don't have to know your neighbours. I have to tread carefully here. My current neighbours are really good. It's like morning, and that's about it.
Isn't your neighbour Stephen Fry?
Well, he is one of my neighbours.
Yes, exactly.
But he's not my next door neighbour.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Sir Stephen
Does he think
Fry
you're a
to you.
fascist?
Yeah, well, we're on nodding terms, and he loves our dog, Chaz, so
very good.
I like Stephen Fry now.
Thank you.
No, I think friendly neighbours are the scourge of the earth. Scourge of the earth.
That's
We've all
true.
made that
Because
mistake.
you just
though,
don't
haven't
want
we?
to be friends with your neighbours, do
No.
you? Just do that, and that'll do.
Well, I
Do you
think
remember,
as
just
younger
in-
people, we all made that mistake where we acknowledged our neighbour.
No,
And
see,
then
I
you
grew
have
up-
to keep
I
doing
grew
it.
up, as I suspect, like Kevin did, hating my neighbours. I grew up in a big house in Hampstead, which was converted into flats. So we had lots of different people. Harvey Goldsmith once lived beneath us. And I was only friends with him because he'd get me tickets to every show that was going.
That's handy.
But if you live in a block of flats, I don't know my neighbours. I've got 2 neighbours either side of my corridor. I don't know who they are
But that's the joy. That is the joy of London. So these people who yearn for friendly neighbours, they miss the point. We all live in London because we don't want friendly neighbours.
Well, now, I no longer live in London, as you know, and I get on really well with my neighbours.
You haven't got any neighbours. You've got such a big house, haven't you?
Yeah, but your neighbour's about like 10 miles.
I mean, I get strangers' dogs running into my house, all sorts of things. But no, I do have one or two immediate neighbours, and that's it.
Right.
There's sort of 3 houses down a dirt track in the middle of nowhere, and I like them both. They're lovely people.
Right. But you don't spend time with them, hopefully.
No, I do a bit.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, I used to when I lived in.
But when I lived in London, absolutely not.
When I lived in Wiltshire, people used to have like sort of dinner parties, and you'd have to go to other people's houses.
Yeah, but that's that country thing.
That country thing. I hated it.
I find
also,
that
worse
weird.
than that was turn up to somebody's party, and it's a curry night. Bring a dish.
Oh.
No.
I think the Americans call that potluck, don't they?
Bad luck.
Americans, when you invite them for dinner, they turn up with a pudding, with a dessert, and you haven't even asked for it. It's like, I already made one, you know. You didn't have to bring that with you.
I've catered the full event, thank you.
I go with Jacinda Ardern on this, if you remember during the COVID years, where she did that great thing where she went, don't talk to your neighbours, because it's dangerous, apparently.
It's the only time she was right, wasn't it?
But you can bang pots together.
Bang pots?
Yeah.
Did you ever do that? I didn't.
Well, you know my story. I always did it. I did it every Thursday because the dog loved it. The dog jumped around. And one Thursday, right, we're standing there. We did it purely for the dog. We're on our back and bang, 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 dog barking away. And the neighbour, you had to take it. Stop that dog! Shut that dog up! You're not showing appropriate respect for the NHS.
The dog is showing respect.
Yeah, that's the only way he knows. He can't clap the pots together, can he?
The dog goes very much for the very expensive private health model, I have to stress.
I want to talk about things...
$2 grand a week.
Yeah, right.
Now, I want to talk about things that don't show respect, which is teenagers.
Of course.
Now, you've got some. I've got some.
I've only got one now.
Have you?
Yeah, it's only down to one now.
Oh, is it? But they're the same age, aren't they? 18.
20. Yeah, his brother's 20. He's 18.
Twins.
Yeah, we've got 8. No, I've just the one.
Right.
There's 18.
You've got an 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, he's a lovely boy, but there is a disconnect.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand is this, right? It's almost at the point where, with a teenager, you have to show them how to open a cupboard.
Yeah.
It's like, I was with a mate of mine last night, we were talking away, and he said, yeah, no, I understand what you mean. If something gets spilt in our house, they look at it.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like if they
happens,
look at it long enough...
And if it happens in their room, they don't tell you.
Yeah. No.
They're also the ones who spilled it, of course. Yeah. And then they don't do anything about it.
I don't know about you, but by the time I was 13, I could iron, I could sew, I could cook, I could change a plug.
You had a job, probably?
I did, actually.
Yeah, I did.
A weekend job.
Yeah, I had a weekend job.
None of it.
No.
None of it.
No.
And we wonder then why they're quite infuriated.
But is it not our fault, though, as well?
Yes.
Because we've been very indulgent, right?
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, my parents, we didn't particularly... we had a small flat in this building in Hampstead, as I say. There wasn't much to do. There wasn't any cleaning up to do. No. I don't remember doing any cleaning up, but I do remember my father used to wake me up in the morning with a cold flannel and rub it on my face and then laugh about it and think it was great.
Yeah.
My 18-year-old, right? My 18-year-old...
He went to jail shortly afterwards.
No, he was Scottish. I mean, that's, considered friendly. That's considered
That's a bit unfair. Is that what Scottish people do?
That's why they're all mad.
their kids.
Yeah, that's why they're all mad.
Go give them a cold flannel, that'll teach
What's
them.
wrong with you? And here's the thing. My son now thinks the definition of clearing the table is to take things from the table to put them nearer the sink.
Yes.
Not actually in the sink.
Or to actually wash them up.
Don't put them in the sink and wash them.
Put them.
Don't
or,
even
or
put
rinse
water
them
in them.
and put them.
Don't put them in a dishwasher.
Correctly.
Just move them.
To put them in the dish, to load the dishwasher correctly.
Just move them from the table to somewhere near the sink.
Yeah.
But don't do anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
That's the thing. And also, don't worry about bringing people home. You don't need to ask. They just turn up with about 10 people at about 11 o'clock at night when the pub's shut. And then you can't send them away because, well, they've just come home. We're going to play cards.
Is it awkward when he comes back to some of your friends from the pub?
I don't have any friends in the pub down there because I don't know anyone. I'm not allowed to go out down there because I'm supposed to keep a low profile, according to his mother. So I'm afraid I have to sit at home drinking very expensive wine and waiting. The good thing is, though, is that when they do come back, if I've had a few more bottles than I should have had, I just give them all a going over. I give them a free character reading.
Do you know, I bought
It's great.
I bought home from the pub once. Seriously, when I was a kid, about 18, just coming up to the end of school, went down to this pub we used to go to called the Anchor near Shepperton Studios. It's when the Who owned Shepperton Studios,
remember that.
the band.
Yeah.
And we got talking, to cut a long story short, I ended up taking home to my house for post-pub coffee Pete Townsend and Nicky Hopkins, the famous keyboard player. So we're sitting in my room playing my records, and Pete Townsend's going through, and then my mum brings in coffee and biscuits, dear. And I said to my mum the next day, you know who that was? And I said, no, dear. I said, it's Pete Townsend of The Who. That's nice, dear. And carried on.
No idea.
Very good.
I mean, look, I was a terrible teenager. I mean, I was, awful.
Yeah.
Genuinely awful.
I think there's some
But my
record of
point
that.
is, I could sew.
Figures.
I could iron.
Yeah.
I could cook.
Right. Trouble is, you were never home to do it.
Well, I mean, at least if I was out on my own, I could look after myself, is my point.
Yes.
And I think we have bred a generation of incapable people.
I know.
Who I mean, it is all about that. It does. I know we always
is.
come back to that, but
Yeah.
it is about that, and it's about the fact that everything exists in that.
Yeah.
So
They think, why cook? I've got Deliveroo.
Yeah.
Although, to be honest, I must defend one of my former teenagers who's now 20, who's at university. He's very into cooking because he did pick up the bug from me.
Yeah.
And he will often be on the phone to me going, I was thinking of making some chicken parmesan tonight. What do you think? And I go, fine. And, so he's quite cool and he does cook.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I am. And the younger one actually used to do it. But the other thing that they do is they go through these stages where suddenly they're going to cook for about 6 months and that's all they want to do. And then suddenly they stop. And you go, do you want to cook anything tonight? He used to make a really good pico de gallo, Mexican relish. And whenever we have Mexican food now, I'm like, you going to make a nice pico? No.
Yeah.
He used to love it.
Yeah.
Now he hates it.
Yeah.
And I'm going,
Well, because he's discovered you like it.
right, that made
And
me
anything that you like.
Yeah.
It's phases,
Yeah.
When I was at university, right, so I first went to university and I wasn't very good at all those things. In fact, I couldn't do anything. And so I was trying to impress this girl. And I told her that I was a good cook. I was really self-sufficient. So she came around to my shitty little campus place. And so I told her, she said, well, if you can cook, then why don't you cook me scrambled eggs tonight? And I had no idea how to do it. So I just sort of extemporised.
Well, you say that.
It was a disaster.
Scrambled eggs are
It took me another few weeks to achieve
Because, of course,
my
now
ambitions with her.
they'll just go Deliveroo. Send
Yeah,
me some
exactly.
scrambled eggs.
They've got no impetus to have to do it.
No.
Let's move on, Mike. People with Substack.
Yes. Now, this is a new word for me, right?
Yeah.
Because if you'd said to me, I don't know, 2 years ago, have you got a Substack? I would think it was some kind of lien on your property or, some kind of legal manoeuvre that someone was trying to put over on you. It turns out a Substack is some kind of an opportunity for you to write a load of old bilge for thousands and thousands of years that you expect people to read.
A small number of people make a great deal of money.
It's a bit like Spotify.
And so,
isn't it?
so everybody else thinks I can make $1 million here. I tried it myself, and trust me, it's quite difficult.
Yes. But the thing that annoys me is that I have several people, and they know who they are. So if you were listening, I don't really care. But they give me free access to their Substacks, and I don't read any of them. Reason being, I haven't got time. I read about 5 newspapers
Did
a day.
Kev give you free access to his Substack?
No,
But
Kev does loads of things that he never tells me about. He didn't tell me.
But why does...
I wouldn't have bought it, by the way.
Well, I did it with Alex Phillips.
Oh, right.
So
How's that going?
Didn't last that long.
A week.
Alex got sick on a sort of round-the-clock basis.
I'd watch that.
But when
I'd watch Alex Phillips being sick.
I don't think they're visual.
Yeah, that'd be quite good. Yeah, Alex
right.
pukes.
Yeah.
But seriously, when people write things, you're so right. People write things on Substack. I'm not going to. There's a friend of mine over in America right now, and they don't. The word that they seem to lose from their vocabulary is ends.
Yes.
So they write like reams and reams and reams, hundreds of thousands of words.
It's
And you think,
unedited.
Yes.
Why,
Unedited.
what people need and what we come from in our jobs as newspapers, right? And there were people called sub-editors, right? And I'm sure Kevin will agree with me. Sub-editors, some of the most odious people in the world, who were so useless at communicating with other people, they weren't allowed out of the office.
Right.
So you couldn't send them to knock on anybody's door and go, "Excuse me, would you mind telling us about the time you..." Roger Windsor or whatever, or whoever it happens to be.
Who the hell is Roger Windsor?
Doesn't matter.
That guy's always getting shagged.
Doesn't matter. But the point is that these people were so useless at interrogating.
Roger Windsor last night.
So these people were so useless at interrogating anyone. They were told, sit in the office and just make sure that copy fits into that space there. Yeah. And they were very good at it. But the thing that was worthwhile was that as a journalist, you knew. And I've worked on both sides of that divide, as Kevin has, because he's been an editor as well. You can see the people that can't stop writing, and you can see the people that know when 1,000 words is enough. You don't send 2,000 words, you don't send 3,000 words.
Right.
But these wallies that write Substacks literally write thousands of words.
Funny, and ironically, they need a sub to cut them down. Yeah.
But do you
Not
think,
enough Substack.
Do you think that kind of that overwriting comes from when you used to be paid per word?
No, I think it's just a lack of ability, because the hardest thing in the world to do is to be concise with writing.
Yeah.
They did an experiment once with the Sun of the Times.
Well, in some cases with you just talking.
Sun of the Times, they put the Times sub-editors into the Sun, and they put the Sun sub-editors into the Times. The Sun sub-editors were fine working on the Times. The Times sub-editors could not work out how to put a 600-word story into one paragraph. They couldn't do it. But that means the tabloid guys are cleverer than the broadsheet guys.
When I was on The Sun, they had this unofficial survey, and it turned out there were more university graduates on The Sun than there were on The Times. Because it takes a cleverer process to get together a tabloid paper. And those sub-editors, some of whom have been, that I've known through my career, brilliant people, absolutely brilliant people. But I believe that in journalism, they made a very strange decision. At a certain point...
Can I just ask?
Right, hang on, I'm finished. So...
These subs.
Honestly, talk about interrupting in the middle of a damn story.
I'm just wondering whether you two were tabloid journalists.
Yes, we are.
Just checking.
So you have a choice at a certain point in your career. You can be a sort of reporter going round the world with a ringside seat at the corner of history, or you can sit in an office drawing pictures and trying to make words fit. Sub-editors choose to do the latter, which I find to be a strange choice.
There is a role for everyone in
Mike?
life. There is a role for everyone on a tabloid
Never
newspaper.
agreed with you more.
Excellent. Kevin, close walkers.
Oh, yeah, this is a niche one.
Yes.
But you're like it. Well, you're both like it.
Yeah.
You're dog walkers, right? I mean, I have a thing about close talkers as well. You know, people who come up and talk to you like this.
Can edge
It's
you down a bar.
Could you get further away? Well, when you go where we go, around Hampstead, walking our dog, quite often you'll have loads and loads of spare space. And there's this kind of person who kind of comes in from the left or the right, and you've got acres of bare land, nobody on it. And as you walk, they kind of filter right in there, and they walk along with you. And it's like, will you go away?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you think this is down to your
have you
previously undiscovered magnetic personality?
No, I don't think it's that, because they don't know.
Are they talking to these people or not?
Well, no, that's it. They just come
there.
up and they stand really close to you.
The idea of somebody just coming and standing next
But it's
to
what
Kev
it's
for no
like.
reason.
That's what they do. They just walk along and you think, go somewhere else.
I've only ever had that on the public transport from people from certain European countries who have no concept of personal space. I once had it at London Bridge Station when I was waiting for a train to Hastings, and I was standing there, and there was literally nobody else on the platform. These people came and stood behind me. Behind me! Literally there. I'm going, what are you doing? I moved. I went 10 feet to the right.
And then they go
and they sort of moved forward. I was like, what's going on?
Or just people who don't know when they're touching
How
you.
do they not know?
How do they not know that they're touching
I think it's the British thing. You know, if the British see a queue, they just join it.
Yeah.
They like to be around other people. So if in a large open space they see two people, they go and stand next to them.
Do you think
or
they
walk
secretly
next
want to
them.
start a conga?
It's like that thing, you know, when you're sitting on public transport. I don't know if you travel that way.
I do.
Occasionally.
I do regularly.
But I do regularly on the train and on the bus. There's nothing worse than an accidental touching of the knees or thigh. Right? And you just go, oh my God.
No, or you go for the handrail and your hands touch.
I once fell on a woman on the tube. the Piccadilly line. I'd taken
That's
my
what
kids.
he told the police,
You can
anyway.
read about it in the
I'd
papers.
taken my kids. This is when my marriage wasn't going particularly well.
I just went around on public transport,
And I took
falling
the kids,
on innocent women.
The kids were in England. The kids were in London. I said, right, we're going to go on the tube because I was fed up taking them to museums. So we basically took the Piccadilly line to Hammersmith and back again because I thought this would be
That's
quite
interesting
exciting
for them.
And
yeah.
at some point or other, during the 3 stations that the Piccadilly line doesn't stop at, I think Turnham Green's one of them.
Yes.
It speeds up quite a lot, and then it sort of shifts to the left, and I fell on this woman because I was standing over her, and I just literally fell into her lap. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing things that's ever happened to her. I thought it was quite funny.
Yes.
You always get those people on the tube where you go, hold something, hold one of the straps or something, because when the train stops, you're going to fall over, and they do.
Yes.
Every time.
Exactly.
Well, I've got something that's not dissimilar from that, because it is an invasion of space, which is people who talk too loudly in public.
I'm accused of that a lot.
Are you?
Yeah.
I have a theory.
It's usually young mothers.
I have a theory.
Americans.
Young mothers.
No, it's all down to insecurity. So they want to talk really loudly because they desperately want you to find what they're talking about interesting.
Really?
But
Or
you
they
never do,
need
right?
to show off.
You never do, right?
And you never do. Right. It's like, oh, we're off to Dubai because Charles has some business out there and he's taking me out there.
Yes.
It's like, oh, shit,
These are people that talk publicly on the phone as well, on the train.
Very loudly. Or don't, with no headphones.
Yes.
They FaceTime their friends.
Yes.
But it is those people who, when you are sitting in a restaurant or a cafe or something like that, and they're on that table and they are talking at a level which is completely unnecessary. The other person, if they took it down 18 notches, the person opposite could still hear them, but they want the rest of the room.
Yes.
Because they feel that they've got something that they can share with just more than the person they're with.
But there are, I would say, exceptions to which I'm one.
Of course.
Because I'm not insecure at all.
No.
And I do talk quite loudly, apparently. At least I'm always... Well, I'm always been accused of it by the mother of my children. One of them.
That may have something.
But I think she's got it in for me.
I'm a loud talker.
Yeah. Well, I think the nature of what we do would suggest that we kind of project our voices. But I don't like people hearing what I'm saying, generally speaking. I don't want to.
But what you're talking about is people who do it deliberately.
Do it deliberately.
I don't like to be overheard, but I think I often am. You're talking about people.
I mean, there is the other end of the spectrum.
Their life plan.
There is the other end of the spectrum of people who talk too quietly.
Yes.
Like,
and you can't hear them.
My accountant, whenever he tells you the figure, you can only see his lips moving.
Right.
You probably don't want to know it.
No, you don't want to know. I mean, he's aware of the fact.
But also in this day and age...
Tax bill this year...
Of the woker. I mean, Kevin is an unfortunate recipient of this. He was famously talking too loudly on a train. And it ended up with him in court.
Yes.
Because people didn't like what he was saying.
60 grand down the drain,
And so I think there are a lot of us...
Sorry, can we share that with the viewers at all? I'm
He
sure
told this story before.
Case. It's a famous
He was on the front
case.
page of The Spectator.
I wrote it.
Oh.
It's a long story.
Yeah. We could do a whole show on it.
For the viewers who haven't read The Spectator...
It did actually sort of come down to my loud voice. The guy who made accusations against me. But, he actually made up what I said. He pretended I said, because he recognised me and thought I was a Fleet Street fascist.
Yeah,
he wasn't entirely wrong there.
Entirely wrong.
But it's a long story.
Yeah.
It's a long story, but it involved you talking too loudly.
Yeah, it started with me talking too loudly.
But you won and proved that you weren't talking too loudly.
No, I proved that
successfully...
the content of my loud talking was not as he said it was.
OK.
He successfully won the case, is what I would say.
Well, a round of applause for Kev and Justice.
Kev. Yes.
Well, that's all for this week. Thanks, of course, to Kev and Mike for being grumpy with me, and we will be back next week with some more grumpiness.